The first thing I heard wasn't my own breath, it was a faint tap of metal on porcelain. A spoon touching the cup's rim, as if measuring the second when the air itself changes for good. Light from the kitchen window crawled across the tile in cold squares. On the table, my blue-edged tablecloth, my phone face down, and a little velvet ring box that no longer held anything. My name is Nell Brooks. I'm 69. I've lived in Portland, Maine my whole life, except for a few months in college when my friends and I thought Brooklyn was a synonym for future. I came back to the ocean, to fog and salt air, to wooden piers where the ropes thud against pilings at dusk. 6 months ago, I walked my husband Walter to his rest. There was no long illness, no machines, just a brief, brutal break. The heart. Then quiet. In 43 years together Walter didn't leave me stocks or mansions, he left habits, laughter, diagonally cut toast, and one thing my hands knew as well as themselves, a diamond wedding ring. He bought it when we slept on an air mattress in a rental and he walked to work through snow because the buses got stuck. I'll upgrade it someday, he'd say. Don't, I'd answer. It already says everything. Today the box lay open, empty. I turned to my daughter. Ava, I said, her name caught in my throat like a stone. Where's the ring? She leaned on the kitchen island, fresh manicure tapping marble, wearing a smile I didn't recognize. Behind her, slightly left like a shadow, stood Dylan, the fiancé. Tall, crisp shirt, phone in hand, a gaze with lots of numbers and very little shame. We needed money for the wedding, Mom, Ava said evenly. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. With one once, she crossed out a lifetime of memory. I didn't shout. Didn't slam a door. The kitchen still smelled like Walter's coffee, coarse grind, dark, no sugar. I gripped the sink's edge like a shoreline. Inside me, a wave rose that didn't move a single object in the room but turned over everything I was. That ring was your father, I whispered. It is him. You're overreacting, she shrugged. Dad wouldn't want you living in the past. We're building a future. Our future. The edge in her, our, sliced finer than a blade. I saw Dylan glance at the side drawer where the box had always been. I knew they'd already done it. Still, I reached in. At the bottom, scuffs in the velvet and a tiny scratch that hadn't been there yesterday. The phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Mrs. Brooks? A careful male voice. Frank Kaplan, jeweler on Congress Street. I think you should know what we found inside the ring box. I sat. Ava rolled her eyes, Dylan adjusted his cuff. I'll come, I said. The jewelry store smelled of polished wood and silver cleaner. The cases were all light and temptation, making every stone seem heavier than time. Mr. Kaplan was a gray-haired man whose hands knew the weight of keepsakes better than many hearts do. Your husband came to me 3 times, he said gently. First to buy the ring. Second to change the prongs. Third, no purchase. He just checked whether I had the exact kind of box. He slid me a small manila envelope. It was tucked under the velvet. Like a hidden pocket. I don't know if he did it himself or had it made. But the note, it's yours. I slit the envelope. Walter's handwriting, even, sure, the same hand that always lined up the checkbook columns. Box 17. Atlantic Trust Bank. 6/12. 2 numbers louder than any sentence. 6th month, June, the 12th, our wedding date. The 70s. A summer church. Sweat on his temple, not from heat, from the weight of meaning. This is forever, Nell, he'd told me then. And he kept it to his last day. I pressed the paper to my chest. For a second I felt him touch my hand. The ring's gone, Kaplan added, apologetic. A collector paid cash yesterday. But I thought the note mattered more. It does, I said. My voice no longer shook. Atlantic Trust Bank had a marble lobby and the smell of floor wax. I handed the teller my ID and the note, feeling my fingers go white. She checked the records and nodded. You have access. This way, please. In the vault, the silence made you hear your own heart. Box 17 weighed like it held time, not paper. In a little private room, I opened it. Inside, an organized folder and a black USB drive, small as a fingernail, heavier than any key. On top lay life insurance, a $2 million policy with me as sole beneficiary. I sat, pressed the page to me, and let myself weep the kind of clean tears that arrive without noise. He thought of me. Beneath it, another stack, a private investigator's reports, transcripts, photos, statements. Headline, Inquiry regarding Ava Brooks. My heart kept its beat, but the world tilted. The reports listed high-risk betting debts, loans taken with questionable data, consultations with attorneys, research on how to challenge an estate. I read the lines where Ava told her fiancé, once mom signs a power of attorney, everything's ours. I had no words, only the old ledger of debit/credit, a lifetime of love on one side, and a cold plan walking in the front door on the other. At the end, Walter's letter. Brief. No theatrics. Nell, if you're reading, I can't explain this myself anymore. I saw what you didn't want to see. I didn't burden you because I believed you'd see it when it mattered. Everything you need is here. Don't let us be erased. You're stronger than you think. W. I held the USB the way I once held his hand in our wedding photo, both palms, firm, afraid to let go. At home, I slid the drive into my laptop. A folder of dates, a year of recordings. I hit play on the first. Static. Then my daughter's voice, made strange by its lightness. She just needs to sign. She's stressed and mixed up, age, you know. After that, things go fast. Dylan's voice, oily, gray, the market's on our side. We can sell the house in weeks. No one will ask questions. I clicked. Another file, another day. The same words. The same hands in my kitchen, inside my quiet, discussing how to push me to the edges of my own life. I paused, and something in me stood up to full height. Not anger, clarity. Late that evening the doorbell rang. Two people, Harper Mills, a young attorney, and her assistant. Polite smiles, a neat stack of papers. Standard authorization, Ms. Brooks. Nothing scary. Ava's worried about you. This will make life easier. Easier for whom? I asked, not touching the pen. For everyone, Harper smiled, the tone people use for a child in the ice cream line. I slid them photocopies from the vault. Their eyes sank to a point. The assistant cleared his throat, Harper's jaw tightened as if her suit had suddenly become too small. Tell my daughter I won't be signing anything, I said. And tell her to choose her words carefully. I have all of them. They left. I stood at the sink, holding the counter, feeling my posture settle back into the line Walter loved, my navigator. Portland is a town where everyone knows one rumor more than necessary. At the grocery store, familiar faces greeted me slowly, stretching syllables like I wouldn't understand the first time. Mrs. Griffin pretended to be fascinated by canned goods when I rolled past, then caught me in the parking lot. Ava said you've been forgetful with little things. You're not offended, are you? The whisper work was nearly finished. I was being painted as fragile. I went home, set the bags down, took out the drive, and pressed play again. No, I wouldn't repeat someone else's script. It wasn't written for me. Night, more files. In one, Dylan said, without her house, I'm sunk. I noted the date and time. The next morning I called the PI listed in the reports, Serena Cho. I have evidence, I said, without detouring into shame. I need a strategy. You already built one, Serena replied. I'll draw the outline. Tomorrow at 10. A week later, another knock. This time, Ava and Dylan. No warning. Just checking on you, Mom, Ava sang, stepping in without being asked, eyes flicking to my desk. Maybe we should all sit down and talk. Sitting, yes, I said, and set tea before them. They sipped like predators sizing up a coastline. Where's it thinnest? I tossed them a decoy. I found something like an old investment account in Walter's papers. Not sure yet. I asked his attorney to review it. Their postures changed, barely, but sharply. Dylan leaned in a fraction, Ava pressed cup to saucer. No need to spend money on a lawyer, her voice turned syrupy. We can look it over. She tripped on the wrong name. I mean, Dylan is great with numbers. No, I said. Walter trusted Miles at Harbor and Key. So do I. You're complicating this, Mom, she tossed back the first phrase I'd taught her never to use on me. If it means anything, it should be for all of us. It's for me, I said. And for your father's memory. Silence thickened. Ava broke first. We have obligations. Before the wedding we need, she stopped, realizing she'd said too much. I set down my spoon. So it isn't about my well-being, I said quietly. It's about rescuing your wedding budget. They left hard. You'll regret this, Ava threw over her shoulder. I folded the tremor into my pocket like a note and didn't take it out. The next day, Mr. Kaplan called. Ms. Brooks, long story, but the gentleman who bought your ring returned it. Said he couldn't keep it. He mentioned a promise Walter made to him years ago. I didn't pry. He insisted I give it back directly to you. I drove with both hands tight on the wheel, Walter rising in me through small things. How he told me to check the mirrors once, not twice. How he set his cup exactly in the coaster's center. Under the lamp, the ring flashed like it had never left me. I slid it on. The weight was precise, like a harbor a ship comes home to. Then I noticed it, a faint ridge on the underside of the box. I pressed. The velvet shifted. A hidden compartment. Inside, a micro SD card, thin as a secret. I breathed deep. Thank you, I said aloud. At home, the laptop. The folder opened, and Walter's face filled the screen. He sat in his office chair, thinner than I remembered but with the same steady eyes. Nell, he said. If this is in your hands, you already know enough. But you need to know everything. I recorded conversations in the house, copied Ava's meetings with attorneys. This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about your safety. Use this. Don't let them turn your life into someone else's project. You're the captain. I cried silently. Another file, voices in my kitchen. A third, date-stamped footage of their consult at Wells and Carter. A fourth, Dylan, once she's declared incapacitated, it'll go quickly. Walter had taken away their privilege to narrate my reality. All right, I told the empty room. All right. Serena Cho was small, sharp-eyed, and sharper-worded. 2 rooms above a coffee shop. She sifted my materials like tuning an instrument, page by page. This is a shield, she said at last. And a sword if you ever need one. I only want the shield, I told her. I don't want a war. I want to be left alone. Historically, Serena smiled with half her mouth, shields saved more than swords. She phoned 2 legal contacts. We made duplicates, locked them away, and sketched the plan. That same week, Ava filed for guardianship, cognitive concerns after a loss, risk of financial disorder. The hearing came fast, someone somewhere was in a hurry. The Cumberland County courtroom smelled like paper and polish. I walked in with my head high, carrying the folder and drives. Across the aisle, Ava in black, Dylan, attorney Harper Mills. Ava wore the perfect "I'm here for Mom" face, a kind of stage makeup I knew would wipe off with the first damp cloth. Judge Rosario, silver hair, straight gaze. Ava's attorney spoke about a vulnerable older mother. I listened and remembered how Walter taught me to snap the tablecloth over the porch rail so crumbs wouldn't scatter. Small habit, firm principle, do it clean. Your Honor, I said when it was my turn. I'd like to present evidence. I laid out the reports, transcripts, photographs of envelope handoffs, debt ledgers. Then short audio clips, Ava's and Dylan's own voices, time-stamped. She just needs to sign. We'll sell the house before the wedding. We'll tell everyone she's forgetful. For a breath, the room held only one sound, someone breathing too fast. The judge asked me to stop the audio. She looked at me a long moment, then at Ava. Petition for guardianship is denied, she said evenly. I'm referring these materials to the district attorney to review for conspiracy and financial misconduct, including potential elder mistreatment. Ms. Brooks, you are competent, consistent, and organized. This court notes your composure. I didn't rejoice. I just breathed, steady, and for the first time in months, without a knot. On the steps outside, the light felt warmer. I touched my ring. I could hear Walter, the course is yours. News travels in Portland faster than buses after a nor'easter. Within a week, greetings at the grocery store sounded normal again, and the "we were so worried" choruses began. Mrs. Griffin brought an apple pie and a heavy "sorry," the kind with more shame than words. I nodded, I know. And I did. How easy it is to believe the loud version of a story. The insurance money sat on my account like a quiet "I'm with you" from Walter. I could have settled into comfort, new couch, repaired porch, fresh windows. But another thought itched. Walter loved seeing young people go to school. He always said anyone who works deserves a chance. I called the local community college, then a university fund in Augusta. 2 weeks later the paperwork was done, the Walter and Nell Brooks Scholarship for first-generation students. Modest amounts, the same size as our old scraped-together dollars, but aimed true. At the small unveiling I wore the navy dress Walter liked and a pearl pin. The brass plaque read, "Every honest job deserves a door." My fingers touched the metal. "We continue," I whispered. For the first time in a long time, the old photos in the house didn't ache, they straightened my back. The hardest knock came on a quiet evening. I was chopping salad when the door sounded. On the doorstep stood a young woman, fists tight around a bag. Tears. Light brown braid. Narrow shoulders. I knew her with a hitch in my breath. Zoe, my granddaughter. Ava's child from her first marriage. We hadn't seen each other in years. Ava called that healthy distance. "Grandma," she whispered. "Can I come in?" We sat in the same kitchen where Ava once learned to write her A's, and Zoe spoke softly. "I'm not like Mom. I didn't know all of it. They say one thing, but people in town say another. I missed you." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Cold as November." "The door's open for you," I said. "Always." From that day, the house heard footsteps that didn't threaten, quick, bright. We baked cookies. I taught her to pickle cucumbers the way my mother taught me. She helped hang the scholarship plaque, and her laughter in the living room sounded like something the house had been waiting for. A month later, I stopped by Mr. Kaplan's, just to say thank you. He brought out an old case from the back. "Your husband used to leave his watch here for cleaning." I knew he liked punctual things, he smiled. He'd say, "Everything should click on time. You've got yours clicking." I walked Congress Street, and Portland again smelled like coffee, salt, and bread. People nodded, and I realized, not every story with a breach of trust ends on a black screen. Some end with work. Careful, unshowy repair. Nail by nail. Choice by choice. Ava? She tried writing, pleading, then blaming. Then went quiet. Her situation with Dylan didn't so much collapse as crumble. The DA did its job, financial deception, attempted misuse of guardianship, not TV plots, but statutes. I didn't feel glee. It was the math of outcomes. In life, sums balance, if you count long enough and carefully enough. Once, Ava did come. Not to the door with counsel, to the water. I was standing by the bay when she approached as softly as she used to as a child. We stood a long time without speaking. She began, words tangling. I failed. I let myself believe I had a right to everything. That's exactly the phrase to start with, I said. I failed. Between us was water. Not a wall, a broad stretch you wade across slowly. I didn't know if we'd both cross. I did know my hand wouldn't be the first to pull again. That's her work. Mine is to hold the shore. On Christmas morning I lit a candle in the living room. Walter's ring glowed softly on my finger. The microSD card sat safe in a vault. The scholarship had admitted its first 3 students. Broth simmered on the stove, Walter's favorite, the one he salted, while I used a level spoon. I pulled back the curtain. A plow scraped ice. Zoe laughed on the porch, building a crooked snowman with the neighbor's boy. My phone blinked, a message from Serena. Case closed. You are steady. I smiled. I'm not unbreakable. I just put my house in order, not only rooms, but definitions. What help is and what control is, what care is and what pressure is. Walter would have called it cleaning the compass ribs. This isn't a story about rage. It's about neatness in what matters. About how quiet doesn't always mean defeat, sometimes it means discipline. And how the strongest answer isn't smashing a door, but installing a lock and a sign, beyond this line, the storm. In here, the harbor. The ending? Not loud. Working. I opened my planner and wrote tomorrow's list. 9 o'clock. Meet scholarship students. 11:30. Bank, update trusted contacts. 3 o'clock. Tea with Zoe. 5 o'clock. Walk the promenade. A schedule is an anchor. I touched the plaque on the wall, Walter and Nell Brooks Scholarship. The metal was cold. Alive. We did it, I said. You taught me to keep a heading when the waves seem smarter than the shore. I remember. When someone tells you boundaries are bricks, remember, sometimes they're the tide line that keeps the sea from taking the house. Sometimes they're a velvet box with a hidden pocket. Sometimes a folder of facts. And sometimes a calm cup of tea you finish, even when the doorbell rings again. If you've read this far, somewhere in your own kitchen there's a velvet box with something essential inside. Everyone has one. Everyone has their codes, their 6/12. Open it. Read. Don't rush. Real strength clicks quietly into place, like a well-repaired watch. And when you're ready, tell us which shoreline you're starting from. Up here in Portland we say, the ocean favors those who don't shout at it, but listen. And the ocean usually returns what it takes, even if it's in the shape of a ring that finally finds its way home. Was it helpful to rest in this quiet harbor for a while? Leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss our next evening stories. Turn on the bell, new tales will arrive exactly when they're needed most. Good night, and may your shores stay calm.